So to start off, to make this VW camper, you're going to need your dies, obviously, and then a selection of papers, and it really can be any colour that you like. I've gone for the classic sort of burgundy and duck shell blue here, but it really is up to you, and orange, dark blue, maroon, your choice. So what we've got is a case of seeing the resources and said making a decision. Now I'm going to just copy this one again because it's there and I can. And I've got the paper here to hand. And I'll just run you through the process and show you how I came about making this little VW van here. And it really is a lovely die. It's quite a bit of crafting in it. Now I've gone to the nth degree on this and literally probably just put about everything there is on there, but you can simplify it down if you want to, and we'll chat about that as I go along. So for starters, we need to cut. We're going to use our dies. Incidentally, I'll talk about it now, that on this particular one I've actually put it together by holding it together with tape that you can see on the back here, so that I could move it around and do different bits and pieces with it. If I just bring this one into camera, this is one I was using to do the demos for making the lights on the instructions there. You can see I've stuck that down onto the card and can work backwards into it that way if I want to. And we'll talk about the windows as well. I've got that on white there because I was just concentrating on this bit. On this one I've put the white parts in there, but we could leave those out and it'll make it, well, you can see through it, so it'll look a little bit more like windows if you want to as well. Okie dokie, but we can cover that as we go along, and really it's a little bit of common sense as well. So let's start off with the dies themselves. Here we go. We've got the top part and the base here, and these two will allow you to interchange the colour. And then we've got the wheels on here, wheels and tyres, and what I call the chrome pack. Most of this will be chrome, but we've also got the lights, the blue and the orange, actually, incidentally, which I was just showing you here. So we've got that to make up those, and really that's all the elements we're working with. It's great fun. I'm going to do the most sort of, I say complicated, the one with probably just about everything in it, but as I go along I'll show you how we can just sort of make things a little bit simpler if you want to. Okay, so we'll start off, and I've broken the two dies here. Remember, they do leave slightly sharpish bits, so you may want to just chip those down a little bit if you've got kiddies working with you. And I've chosen my first one here, and this is it. Now I always remember, I don't always, but I try to remember, if I pop the die on sort of upside down like so, that's the way it's going to stick on the paper. So when I cut my shape out, it matches, because I have a tendency of doing it the other way. And if I had a pencil, I'd have drawn around it to be a little bit more accurate. But I find if I try and skimp too much, then I end up finding it hard to get on there. So it really is up to you. I'm not going to give you a lesson on crafting there. I know how I get it wrong when I cut things. And while I'm cutting bits of card out, here we go. I've got this section here, and again I'll just reverse that so that I know it's going to fit when I stick it on. And again, just match that up to there. And last but not least, my chrome pack here, and again just flip that over. And we do need chrome for the wheels as well, so to be honest I'm just going to do the whole lot and do it all in one fell swoop. So there we go, those are my three parts there, and I'll come back later and use a little bit of the orange and the darker blue here just to create my headlights, and get my thumb out the way, show you there to create that. And I will come back with the lighter colour just to do the wheel part in here as well to match the roof, which is just little attention to details. But I rather like that. I just think it looks lovely. Incidentally, it's showing up quite nicely on the camera. If you see the lines in here, I haven't actually, and I promise you, I've not put white pencil or anything in. That's the embossing lines just digging into the black card and just creating with a shadow, and it really does bring it out nicely, doesn't it? And if I say so myself, I'm quite pleased with that. I thought it might work nicely, but whether it's the card I've got, and I can't even tell you who it is, who makes it, it's just a scrap bit I found, so I've used that, but we'll see as we go along. Okie dokie, so those are all the parts done. All you need to do now is cut it and use any machine that you like. I've got the trusty Big Shot, and I'm just going to run through and cut these bits out. It's business as usual there. You don't need to see me doing that. So I'll cut those out, bring them back, and I'll start laying it out, and we'll have a look at what we've got. Quick change of plan. I'm going to show you how I cut this, just to give you a few sort of words of advice on the bits that come out, the bits that we may or may not want to keep. In this instance, nothing, but I just put the die down on my particular machine, paper on top, pop it through, run it in the machine. You only need to go through once. I'm going to go through twice because I've got an embossing line on there, and that might help show it up. Now, I just wanted to show you this as I pull it away. I don't actually need to capture any of these parts, but if I did, and I will shortly, then it's just a case of just trying to keep everything in place. But there we go. I've cut that one out, and I'll just go on now and do the other sections as well. With what I call the chrome pack, or the chrome parts here, first pass I'm going to get everything, because I need little bits from the tyres and the logos, etc. Pop my silver Marie board on and just cut this through. Now, we've got lots of tiny bits on here, so you do have to be a little bit careful when you lift it off. I'm just going to go through there and just pull that over a bit, run it through, and just try if I can and keep everything in one place. That's not going to happen. You see, everything wants to come out so easily. This is one of those instances when you kind of rather hope it would stick into the die itself. But what I'm going to do is just move that one over to there. The tinier bits are still in there, which is good. Everything else, I said, I designed everything to drop out, and I've tried to make these just cling a little bit if possible. So I'm going to leave that now. If I just show you there, pulled that part on there. I know all the elements are here now. I just carefully put that to one side. In reality, I'd probably cut this when I needed it, but I've got the machine out now, so I'm going to just do most of the basic cutting here. I've got my basic parts here. And just again to remind you, on this particular one, I've taped this behind, but on this one, I'm going to just stick it down onto a piece of card to build it up, and that could be actually in position where you want it to go on your actual card if you want to build it up that way. But just for sort of convenience sake, I'm going to start here, and I'll begin with this part here, and again I'll just put a few little dots of glue around to hold it into position, and I'll show you one of my gluing techniques in a moment as well, but it's really whatever you personally want to use. But we need to put a few little dots on. This one's dried up a bit, and I've got the glue coming out the side, but I can still control it quite nicely, and that will hold it there. So that's the first bit done. I'll just flip that over. Ooh, got a spare bit on there, and I'll just pop that down now onto my paper there. And just let that dry. A little bit of tissue is quite good because it takes up any excess as well. I'll just pop that onto there like so. And I'm going to do the same again for the blue part here, just a few dobs of glue to hold it into position, and just stick it down and pop that underneath there, and then that will just line up in here. With the wet glue, you've got a little bit of play just to jiggle it around and just get it to just match up and butt up there like so. Just so you can see, I'm just moving it into position. I'll just let that move out there a little bit. You do have to kind of push it in because of the way that things cut here and the creation of the die. Though it's following the same line, you just sometimes need to help it on its way. There we go. So that's my first layers down like so. Because they bevel the edge, the camera's making, you can see like a very black line in there. Actually in real life you can hardly see that. That's just where the two bits are beveled, but it's looking a little bit more fierce than it really is. Now for the next part, we've got the windows, and what I've done is I've used, this is the only card I've had, and this is about 380 GSM, so conveniently for me everything stayed in. Now you use the darker parts, I can show you here, and they're just going to drop back in like a jigsaw puzzle, and then we can put blue in there, or You could leave those blank if you want it to look like real windows. You can see what's ever in the background of your car there. So what I'm going to do is just one by one, so I know all the bits are right, just take those out like so. Sometimes just give it a little bit of a clean up with the bits on there and just slot that in like that with a bit of glue on it and work my way along the whole of the camper caravan here. If I can just show you here, what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of dab of glue top and bottom there, as it were, just to hold it into position and just slot those in. That will just stick it all in nicely there anyway. And then I find a bit of tissue helps. If there's any excess, it'll just pick it up. Just press that into place. And there we go. I'll just work my way along the whole of the window area here using the same technique. I've gone ahead now and put all the windows in. Now I've used 350, I think it's probably near a 400 GSM card. It's massively thick and probably not the best thing to do to use something that of that thickness, only because of the way that it cuts. But what we can do just here, and first of all, the lines look a little bit more raggedy on the video than they are in real life. This is blown up quite a bit. And that I said, I'm really putting down so I know it get a lovely cut. It's just showing you the waste bits that we've got come out here could go back in if you wanted to and use those to make the whole thing black, or you could put black behind it. Sometimes if you just want to have like a shadow area behind, you could just run a very thin piece of black paper or card behind this, stick it down and then put the whole lot down, similar to the technique I've used on the other one. But on this one, as I said, if I pop the blue back in, that will sharpen everything up there a little bit. And I do find it useful sometimes just to run around with my little pokey tool here just to clean out any, you can see some little stray bits. I said this is, it really is hugely thick card that I've got here. It's the only thing I had to hand, so I've gone to use it. And incidentally, you probably noticed it's got a few dots. Yes, I dropped, as I was gluing some bits in, I've dropped it onto there. But I'm hoping that will dry out in time. So yeah, do be careful when you're working. But I'm going to carry on and show you warts and all, because it happens. And at this stage, I don't really want to stop, but I think it'll dry out eventually. Okie dokie. For the tyres, same thing again. I've done this in black. You can see the edge there. This is where that really thick card is sort of paying out for itself, and that is again just using really the edge of the pokey tool here just to clean off any bits and pieces out of there, and with a bit of glue I'll just put some dots on there, and that will slide up on into place like so. Whoops, in there. It grabs quite quickly, this glue, but you can see now I can just move that into position there, and there we go. Now for the wheel here, what I've done is just cut this one out again. You can just line it up there, and it's just by eye, it's just to get a little bit of the tyre into position there. We've got the mudguard coming over, and then if you want to, you can actually slot it in underneath, but what I do is just take a little line here with the mudguard and say, well, that's roughly where I want to cut, and just pencil that off like so. So just put a little line on it, and I'll just cut that through now with a pair of scissors, and that will give me, again, an approximation of what I want. That bit's gone flying off. I probably need to cut a little bit more off. I've missed my line there. I'll just show you. And that will just, again, glue in underneath there like so. There's a tiny little bit of white there, but you're not going to see it because when we put the bumper in, and I've got this in black at the moment, so just pop that on there, that just comes down and covers that. So I'll glue that, and that's how we do the tyre at the front, and that'll look fine. That's just an approximation, and again a few dobs of glue. Whoops, perhaps a little bit too much glue there, and pop that along a bit, just sort of line up So a rough guideline, if you take, there's a line for where the headlights go, just come down about there and just, as I said, just squeeze that in tightly to there, and there we go. That's our tyre in the front there. You could, if you wanted, just put a little bit of black in. It just needs a little bit of something to take it away. But I said I'm just going to drop the bumper slightly, but a little bit of black pen in there would cover that if you wanted to. Or just cut it a little bit closer. So there we go. That's that part there. Now we have to come back and do the build up the wheels here. So the next thing to do is to use that die. So I'll come back with this die and just pop a little piece of card into there like so. Okay, so now what I'm doing is just, you can see on the back wheel, I've put the that colour back in, the sort of the wheel colour in there, a little bit of glue, and just sticking those in, and then doing the same. I've got what I call the chrome part here, put some glue onto that, and that will just stick into there like so. And that builds up the wheels, and just let that sort of dry itself off. If you get any on there, that'll just rub away afterwards, and that gives us our lovely sort of chrome hubcaps there. And while we're doing the chrome, we might as well go on now and do the headlights as well. So what we do, as per the instructions, is the rings first of all. We put, you can see, if you look very closely, we can see the guideline there. Now I've got my ones on here, so I'm just going to release that, and again, probably a bit too much glue, but just pop a little bit of glue onto that to hold it into position. And it's slightly, it's not a perfect circle, so we get the perspective on it, and we just follow the lines. You can see near enough, don't worry. It's just kind of oval shape, and it goes in that direction there. Now if you want to, you can do the little indicators as well. You can see I've still got all my bits stuck in here, so I'm going to carefully release those out. That one I don't need because it's going to be orange. And again, a little bit of glue on that, just a bit of precision gluing here just to hold it into position like so. And these are an optional extra, but I just thought they looked quite nice, and there's no real right or wrong. They just go above the headlight. I just clean that off about there roughly. Get rid of those little strands and just stick that down. Now the next thing to do with the headlights, as per the instructions, which you've probably seen on the website, is we stick the coloured bits down. I'm going to use blue, dark blue here to give like a glass effect. Then that goes on here, then orange in there, and an orange bit onto there as well. So I'll just go and cut those and place them down. Again, a little bit of glue. Just, you could use the glue dispenser itself, just popping a little bit on there. That's going to hold it into position quite nicely. Get my parts, and those will slot in. Again, I'm talking about perspective. The bigger lines towards you here and the smaller lines towards the back, and if you can see that, it just keeps the perspective going. And same again now. I'm just going to bring this bit into view to show you. This is the other glass headlight. Now this one we glue because the silver parts are going to go on top of it. So a little bit of glue onto there. Flip it over, and to keep the perspective, I'm going to just gently rest that into position there, and have the bigger lines, or you can see it's actually almost clear there, and the tighter lines at the back. And there's two embossing line. There is an embossing line there, and that gives you the position and the guide for it, so you can see. Now then I'll put the orange into there, and then a little bit of orange onto there. That's for the indicators. Remember, the parts are quite small. I've cut it, and I'll just show you here. They're just still resting on the plate, so I'm going to just use my craft knife to pick that up and just drop that one in there like so. And then I've got the other part here, and I'm just using my craft knife to hold it into position. If I put a little bit of glue, it's just going to line up around there. Put some glue, that's drying up on me, down on there, like so. And then again, just pop that with a squarer part, and it will just go slightly over the edge, as you can see there. And now for some precision gluing. A little bit of glue down here, and the same for the indicator, because these bits, I'm just picking up on my craft knife there, they actually sit on top, whereas we had like a frame there, these will just sit on top. And again, if I just pick that up with my craft knife, I'm not denying this is quite, well, I think it's quite fiddly. It needs a little bit of care, and you don't, these indicators are optional, and I truly am doing this with very bad eyesight, and I think I'm getting it fairly close. And there we go, they're in position there. This is zoomed right in on the camera, so if I can do it honestly with, you know, not even being able to see what I'm doing, you're going to be absolutely fine. Okay, so we can go on now and just do the rest of the chrome. Let me just go on here and put a few dots of glue on the bumper. And that will just sit along there like so, and it just comes to the edge. As I said, you can, if you want to, just cover a little bit of that wheel, just move that along. I just want it peeking around the corner there and then coming down, but not covering the door. And again, just let that dry, a little bit of tissue. I find it better to let the glue dry a little bit if you've got something on there, then rub it off afterwards. So what we're going to do really is just go on now and just stick all the bits of chrome down, as it were. We've got the badge here for the front. So again, a little bit of glue, just a few dots on there. That sits, and you can see there's a line, an embossing line. What I do is just come up a little bit there, and just, it's slightly at an angle. That gets the perspective in as well. It's actually designed to go like that. And we just work our way along and put some glue on the door handle there, in that area, and just pick up my door handle on the edge of my pokey tool there, and just slide that into position. Press that down to let it glue. And then we've got the mirrors. We've got two of these. There are additional little squares, tiny little ones, which actually go on to make the bracket. If you want to be really pedantic, you can pop those in as well. I've just added them. They are tiny little bits of dye actually, but they're there if you want to go on. I said I'm just trying to show you everything pretty much on full steam, as it were. Just it's everything in there. Just put my glue to hold that. We've got two mirrors, a left and a right, and they just sit down slightly on the bodywork here and just come over. Now, I'm supposed to have some blue in there, so forgive me. I was going to come back and just say we can drop the blue in, but I'm just going to stick that one down now. In fact, I'll leave it there, just cheat a little bit. It's sticking up, it's quite 3D. If I want to, I can slot the blue in. I just want to come back and show you that later. And then stick the other one on. That's still sitting here. Let's just release that one. They are little parts, and you may end up having to cut them a few times as you lose one or two, but then you find them, so keep them for next time. So again, a little bit of glue across there, and then this one, you can see it sticks out just fractionally there. That's to allow for that one, the mirror there, to go in, and I'll pop that down like so, and we're pretty well there now. We can, if we want to, just if I pop a little bit of glue in these window areas here, we can just come back and put some dark blue into there, which I've already got here prepared. I'm just going to slot those ones in. So you can, if you want to, you can either have it with a whole piece of black behind it, or cut this out. And here is the finished camper van. I've used, as I said, dark blue for the windows, just gone ahead and stuck those in, and used the black surround in there. You can see how we build it up, and it really is, it's quite straightforward. It's a bit like a jigsaw. Bits just drop into place and we just work our way along. And I think the overall effect is really lovely. Apologies on my behalf. I've been a little bit tardy, and look, I did drop some glue on and bits and pieces there. But do you know what? This camera is making it honestly look 10 times worse than it is. In real life, you'd hardly notice that. And I don't know, it might just dry out and I might be able to rub away at that a little bit, or even stick another dye on top of that. Perhaps a flower. Let's make it sort of flower power car. But that aside, you will find that sometimes you get glue stuck on parts. I found from experience that if you're working and there's bits overspilt and you use a kitchen towel, you can kind of dab them up. If not, let them dry, especially on the Miri board, and then just rub it off afterwards. When it's fully dry, it'll just peel away. But overall, I hope this shows you the technique and how simple it is just to build it up. And really just take your time. I said you don't have to put the indicators in. You could leave those off if you want it nice and simple. You could put a bit of black paper, a whole piece of black paper behind the window here, keep it simple. Or just put nothing in there if you want to. It is up to you. It's however far you want to go. But this is what I call fully made up at the moment. And I don't think it wasn't too bad to get it to this stage. It really wasn't. Anyway, I hope you enjoy making yours.